getting to explore a river that hasn't been fished for a decade. That right there, I mean, is like venturing into the unknown.
Kola has been in the focus of the fly fishing industry for ages. And I thought there was nothing left to discover. I said, guys, listen, what do you guys think about scouting on the Kola? And their initial reaction was not this awestruck, like, okay, let's do it. It's like, Kola, everything's been scouted there. It's the holy grail for most salmon anglers out there, and every salmon angler on the planet knows that there are some incredible waters up here, some of the best Atlantic salmon rivers for sure. The world knows about this already, so it's been in the focus of scouting efforts and commercial operations and outfitting companies for decades. Fly Fishing Nation, we pride ourselves with that we know that we're in touch with the industry, and we know what's going on, and we didn't know about these particular rivers. So being part of something that is practically a blank page in a book that's yet to be written is something very special. Someone has reached out to us over every single imaginable way, desperately trying to get in contact with us. And usually we don't really take these urgent calls for a literal adventure. A scouting requires proper preparation. So it's a very short notice call, because prior to the date of our arrival, I think we've been given a maximum of 2.5 weeks, which is super short notice, and you need a bunch of crazy people to pull something like this off. And I said, okay. So I said, guys, are you up for an adventure? And they all said yes. And now we're here. It's quite amazing. We've been given this amazing opportunity to fish a salmon river before it turns into a destination. So the guys get a lot of river time, they get in touch with the system, they learn to understand it. And obviously it's just like opium for a fly fisherman, right? These guys are out here and they are, the only thing that they should do is like be the very best fishermen they can be. We're scouting on a commercial scale. That means to be sent out to locations to stake out and see how good it is. Fly Fishing Nation has always been on the cutting edge of new technologies that we infuse into this very old school sport and passion of fly fishing. So what we usually do on the scouting, the first step that we need to get out of the way, we do a high altitude droning across the whole river, up and down. Based on that, we stitch up a map and sectionize it, basically create beats. Over this time, we go into what we call the deep droning process, which is a mapping process. So we set up drones and they will fly sections of the rivers in zigzag and take thousands of pictures. They will stitch it all together, and then we have a very detailed, high-resolution, up-to-date map. So based upon our opinion, our final piece of paper, they're gonna pull the trigger and say, yes, this is great, or it's not. A scouting is only as good as the writing in the end, and this has to be completely unbiased. So what I want out of a commercial grade scouting is, I want to have very, very accurate river maps. Ideally, I want to have a 3D scan of the entire river. So we know about the deep parts in the river and we know exactly what we're talking about here. We want to know how many fish run up the system. So we need backup by scientists. We want to help our clients to figure out what to improve in terms of infrastructure here. Get the boats, get a helicopter landing spot right there, build a tent camp here for an overnighter, and all of this type of stuff. They get a very honest opinion of what we think it is. Because someone's going to build a lodge and it's already in progress because they know that the fishing is great, but they want to know exactly how great it is. We've spent so much time with clients on the water that we have a very good idea, I would say, about what's good on a commercial scale. And ultimately what they get is a 150 pages book with all the maps, all the drone information, how to approach a pool, what to bring, what to improve, plan of action for next year, everything. Based on this, these guys, it's completely free and up to them what they do with it. Then our work is done. First of all, we're looking at an uncharted territory. We have to take this into account. So while the other guys are running out there and doing their stuff, like being wild childs and chasing some fish and mapping this river and getting some work done, writing scouting reports, taking measurements, measuring the temperature, writing everything down, I'm always the shadow behind, reminding them that this is a wild place. And scouting is a wild undertaking. And it's beautiful. Scouting is always, it's not only wild, it is dirty, it is wet, it is uncomfortable, it is hostile to some extent, but it's the purest thing that I know. The Kola Peninsula is a barren rock covered with peat and moss and a couple of birch trees. Out here, a small little thing can turn into a disaster. Whenever you get yourself away from people and immerse yourself in an experience like this, there's something else. Out here, we're not the apex predator. We have to realize this, and this is the same in every other scouting. Like, you get yourself into a wild place and you cannot expect, that you rule the place, basically. Out here, we have bears, we have mooses, we have wolverines, On top of that, we have sometimes adverse weather situations. This entire river is a terrain that is to some extent unknown to us. We are walking on big boulders, slippery rocks all day, so things can happen. Like every single time the boys leave the camp, the only thing that I want upon their return is that they tell us like, everything's all right, we're safe, it's all cool. But it's still a wilderness experience, and you have to prepare yourself mentally and physically for that. I mean, the boys are hiking 15 kilometers downstream and 15 kilometers upstream sometimes, fish in between, and they're tired, and it's 24/7 daylight right now, so the lack of sleep, lack of concentration, I mean, it gets to you after a while. On top of that, a lot of people underestimate that being off the grid, being offline means you have nothing to do sometimes. One of the first things I communicated to the group was like, guys, bring whatever you need to bring to be comfortable, you know, to keep yourself sane, because cabin fever is a real thing and it gets to you. And it's a slow process, and if you let it in your head, it just grows on you. I know that it's such a weird parallel universe for people to understand what's happening out here. They don't know what fly fishing is, and whenever we are on the grid and we talk to normal people, they have absolutely no preconception of what's happening here.
When you hook up with a fish and you realize it's a big fish, you can't describe it.
It's just you and the fish.
And you do this over an extended amount of time, years sometimes, like decades sometimes. And then it all comes together. It's this epic relief.
It's just fantastic, you know, it goes through your body, it's a shock. Oh, you know, that feeling right there, it's, I can't describe it. It's impossible to describe it. Everything at once. Fear, happiness, excitement, everything at once. It's just a rush, that's what it is. It's a rush.
And then you feel the pull and like, oh my God, gets your heart racing. Like nothing that I've ever experienced before. You're not in control. You are never in control, man. If a big fish takes, you are not in control. You just, you know, they lead, you follow. It's just between you and him, and the fine line is quite literally just a piece of nylon. And your dreams hang on this tiny little fragile string. And he's gonna take you for a ride because he's obviously King Red, man. He's the boss of the pool. He knows exactly what to do. You know, his instincts kick in and this muscle machine turns around and wants to go back to the sea, and you're struggling to keep up with him. And it's just this crazy battle, like man versus beast. And when you get it, it's
Yeah!
I don't know, when I caught my first big salmon, I was just done. I was lost for words for hours, for absolutely hours. I called Paolo and said, man, I caught the biggest salmon of my life.
Okay, now we can go home. Okay, I'm done for today. Forever. Yeah.
So after that blistering run down the rapids, my friend Paolo caught the first 30-pounder officially. This thing is scale weighted 30.2, and that makes it the Holy Grail. That's what we're here for, to find this exact fish right here. This is a beautiful creature, and that's all we could have asked for. Like a proper 30 on the scale. It's just amazing.
Wow, that's amazing. Here we go.
There she goes. That's pretty much as good as it gets. As good as it gets, man. Well deserved.
It's all, I can say absolutely 100% that this is a viable fishery, and that's very, very exciting. When we came here, we didn't know if that was the case.
It's an amazing river with an amazing average size of fish. I couldn't be happier with the condition. Like, these fish are exceptionally fed.
Very special fish, you know, that have been out to the middle of the North Atlantic and come back here, and they're magnificent creatures, and there's lots of them in this river.
And I have experienced the most epic salmon fishing that I have ever experienced, that I have ever dared dreaming of. This river is epic. There's just, you know, the pools are like pearls on a string. But the fishing, man, Jesus Christ.
It is magical. I mean, it is magical fishing. It's spectacularly beautiful, and it's for fly fishermen, you know, but this place is intimate, and it's a beautiful size to fly fish, and it's got big fish. So you get all of the special things that you get with the bigger rivers, but in a much more intimate setting. It's one of the rivers that I think is the most enjoyable to fish of all the Kola rivers.
So our interest is to create something together with the Russians here that will last for generations to come.
I think that these guys from the Kola Reserve have a very, very good idea, a very soft approach. They do the right things, and hopefully in years from now we'll be seeing happy faces and amazing fishing for people from all over the place.